This is the 2015 Motion Evo 29er, and that stands for 29-inch wheels. That's really the largest traditional wheel size for bicycles, and it's neat to see it on an electric bike. You've got a lot of options to choose from Motion in their Evo line, and this is just one step up from the 27.5. Much of the bike is the same in terms of the drive system, the battery, and all of that, with a 29-inch wheel. And by the way, these are 29 by 2.25 inch tires. That 2.25 is sort of the diameter. So you can see it's wide, and it's really knobby, grippy, going to be good for off-road type of riding. You get more momentum, you get more flow with a bike like this, right? It takes a little bit more energy to get that larger wheel moving, and you don't have quite as much mechanical advantage, pushing it or pulling it from the motor right here in the middle, because the wider the wheel is, the less mechanical advantage you have. However, once you do get going, you've got more momentum, and you can just roll right over bumps and rocks and things like that. It also elevates the frame a little bit up off the ground, because again, the larger the wheel is, the higher the center point is. This is a size large frame. They only have one frame size at this time, so maybe for someone who's a little bit taller, this could also be a good option. I do enjoy 29ers, but the steering is a little more like flowy instead of like quick, and something like a BMX bike where it's very responsive, and you're going to maneuver around rocks with like a 26-inch wheel. And a lot of those 26, 27.5, you'll notice those are like full suspension because you've got more travel. The wheel's a little bit smaller, it's more nimble, whereas this is going to be just a trail bike, like cruising along, that kind of thing. So I guess I've kind of covered that enough, the whole wheel size thing. And you probably already know that if you're interested in this bike, but that's something I think about, and again, how that changes the way the motor interacts with the bike. I'm going to hit some of the rest of the specs on this bike. Decent pedals, platform, feel pretty solid. Nothing too special. You might end up replacing those if you've got clip-ins or something, if you're actually doing a lot of mountain biking. It's aluminum alloy frame, real nice, sort of almost like a mid-step design that they've got here, and that's a little bit easier to stand over if you're at a stop sign, or maybe you're on a trail and you come up to a turn, you're waiting for your friend, you can stand over that. I still mount it from behind. I like swing my leg up and over. And one thing that was kind of, it seems interesting to me is that they've got threaded eyelets right here on the seat stays, and then down here by the dropout. And that's actually really cool because you could add a carry rack on the back of this bike, and a more secure carry rack than if you tried to do like a beam rack. And this could turn into a really cool urban sort of commuting bike. It could be like the weekend warrior bike where you go out and you have fun on the trails, and then the week comes and you use it to get to work, and you pop your rack on there and hang your panniers or a bag or something. And being a hardtail, a rack like that would work. You don't have to worry about the wheel colliding with your rack. So I love that. It's a neat option. Not all bikes include threaded eyelets like this one does. And unfortunately, they stopped there. I feel like they could have added some nice eyelets here so you could put a bottle cage. However, I don't know if there's enough space. Maybe they were concerned about that. This is the battery pack right here, really nicely integrated into the frame. Maybe they could have had bosses on that, but these Motion batteries are kind of interchangeable across the line, and some of the low-step bikes don't have enough room. So maybe they just thought, whatever. People can wear camelbacks or add a rack if they really want water. But that's something that comes to mind because, I ride a lot, and you get thirsty, you get hot out there. So let's go back to some of the other specs. You've got a nice suspension fork here, Shimano or RockShox XC30. The website says XC32, and I noticed that the website also has like a gloss black frame. So this might be like a mid-season change. It's kind of like a matte finish on part of the bike, and then this like brownish silver kind of color. Anyway, it's still a good fork, relatively lightweight, and it's got remote lockout. So as you're riding, you don't have to reach down here. You can just, lock it out or release it right there. And, the cockpit, considering all the different options on this bike, you've got 3 chain rings in the front right there, as well as, and that's Shimano Deore, as well as 10 cogs in the back Okay, so kind of the rapid fire shifting. Really nice derailleur, Shimano Deore XT. Good stuff. I mean, you know, lightweight fork, lots of gears to choose from. Easy Motion is part of BH. They've been around since like 1909, and they make bicycles, right? Like regular bikes for a long, long time. And you know, I kind of feel like that's carried over. This is a bike that you could totally ride, and it feels fine without electric power. Lots of gears, you know, good ergonomics. But then you add the drive system to it, and that's a sweet upgrade. Got kind of a long stem here, and then just a real low-rise handlebar, so you are leaning forward. It's a little bit more aggressive, and you know, again, for trail riding and stuff, it's more active, and you can see that in the saddle as well. Quick release on the seat post, 31.6 millimeter diameter, in case you want to replace that with like a thud buster or something. And then, I don't know, maybe we should let's hop to the other side here for a second and talk about the disc brakes. First of all, these nice flat rubber velo locking grips with this red accent, and they match the Tektro Aruga E-Comp levers, so hydraulic, real easy to actuate. You could just use a finger or two, which is great when you're holding onto the grip. This grip is a little bit compromised by the twist throttle, right? Because if you're right here, and it's just not as firm, because obviously it twists, it spins. And that's a question mark if you're really doing heavy duty off-road. I would call this kind of like a middle of the run off-road bike. It's not gonna offer you as much like leverage and power and response as like a Bosch mid-drive or some other system would, but it's still pretty good, and the price is great. This is like $29.99. All of the Easy Motion Evo bikes, or most of them, are at that price point, which is pretty sweet. Great tapered head tube for extra strength right there. So anyway, these brake levers, they're hydraulic, and they have a motor inhibitor right here, so it instantly kills power to the motor, which is very important because this bike has pedal assist that isn't super responsive. It uses a TMM4 torque sensor back there, and that can be adjusted, but sometimes it gets like too sensitive, or not as sensitive. It's sort of how it's set up, and I feel like that can also change as you put the rear wheel on, and it's got these sort of like ratcheting release levers, so they're supposed to be tool free, but there's still some zip ties down here you'd have to deal with, and this ratchet arm doesn't spin all the way around because of the wires. So it's not a perfect system, but hey, I mean, at least you could get the wheel off. Maybe you have a pocket knife or something just to cut that zip tie. There's a quick release on the front. And jumping back to the brakes real quick, we've got a 180 millimeter rotor in the front, 160 millimeter rotor in the rear. So, you know, those are the specs. That's kind of the whole deal. Shimano crank arms. And maybe it's time to jump into the drive system. Okay, so this is a 350 watt geared rear hub motor. It's planetary geared, so basically you have 3 plastic discs in there. They're stepping down the rotation speed from a little electromagnet motor in the middle, spinning very fast, and it creates, you know, power and torque with the gears that stays relatively small and lightweight. And this motor, just so small, it kind of blends in behind the chain rings and behind the disc brake. It's real clean, it's black, it matches the spokes, the wheel set, everything. Real nice that way. So does a pretty good job. It's from dapu, and I feel like that's a step up from some of the other motors I've seen. I think it peaks out at like 550 watts, and it feels good, but again, with such a large wheel, you're gonna get a little less torque on this bike. This is more your like fun, you know, trail bike, but it's not as hardcore as some of the other e-bikes for off-roading. Then we've got the battery pack here. This thing is actually really sweet, in part because it's so well integrated into the frame. It blends right in, keeps the weight low and center on the bike, and compared to last year's Easy Motion stuff, the Neo line, it's actually a lot bigger. So it's 36 volt, 11.6 amp hours. It's like 30% bigger than the 36 volt 9 amp hour batteries they had before. It locks to the frame, so you can just twist that, and then you can kind of pop it up like this. Whoop. There we go, so you can see right where it seats nicely. There's the underside of the battery pack here. Yeah, good stuff. One of the things that I really like about this pack is that it's got like a little LED charge level indicator built right in. So you might have this inside and be charging it separate from the bike, and you plug it in right here. There's another plug right there near the kind of the bottom bracket. and you can charge the bike there too, but it uses a different type of plug. So there's actually a little dongle. I meant to bring the charger out here. It's about 1.5 pounds. It's relatively small, lightweight, so you could bring it with you. I just like that you don't have to take the battery off, because it gets dirty and it's easier to drop it and damage it when you take it off. However, this little charge port area, it's kind of a bummer that you have to use a separate dongle to get it to fit in that new slot. And if you accidentally move the crank arm, you can sort of shear off the end of or crack it, the charging cable. So be careful about that. It's a little bit vulnerable, in my opinion, right there. I think that's a good overview of the battery and the drive system. This is the display where you kind of interact with the whole thing. It is removable. That's a huge win. So just like the battery, you can take this off, pop it in your pocket there, carry it into the office if you're doing the whole rack setup thing we talked about earlier. It's a good little screen. It's really nice. It stays out of the way, and it brings your screen and your buttons very close to your grip, so you don't have to, like, I guess you can almost like memorize this and do it without looking down. It does take a second to turn on, so I'm holding the power button here for a second. There we go. It's telling me, okay, 29-inch wheels. It kind of goes through a little boot sequence, and there are settings in here. You can hold the power button and go through the settings, but the defaults are your speed in miles per hour, your pedal assist level. We're at 100% right now. There's like 4 different levels of assist, so we go down to 70, 50, 30, and then 0. So again, 4 levels of assist and throttle mode. So that's one of the bummers about this bike, is like you can't override pedal assist with throttle. You have to like be in throttle mode, and that sucks, because if you're on a trail and you're using the efficient like low level assist to save your battery, but you need a quick boost of energy, I wish you could just be like vroom, and you'd be, then that's it, and you could let off. Instead, you have to click down, then twist the throttle, or click up a couple times. It's just, I don't know, that I say that, but at the same time, if you're in pedal assist and the throttle can override it, if you're on a bumpy section of trail and slipping, well, that could also accidentally override the motor when you didn't want to. I don't know, I've seen it both ways with electric bikes. And then we have the battery level indicator. It says 55% charged. If you press the power button here, it cycles between your total distance, your total time, and I think it's like your maybe total, I don't know, and then trip distance, trip time, trip speed. Oh, that's the last one. Speed, top speed that you've hit. And these bikes do go a little bit faster. They say 20 mile per hour top speed, but in pedal assist mode, I mean, I've gotten them, in like the low 20s. So it's not technically a speed pedelec, but it does go a little faster. And again, it uses torque sensing pedal assist. There's the TMM4 sensor. It's a good sensor, it's just sensitive. And one of the things I've noticed is that off-road with this bike, sometimes if the chain gets bouncing around, and kind of pulling, that can actually activate your torque sensor when you didn't mean to. So you're just coasting, your feet are on the pedal, but you're going over some bumpy rock section, and the motor can be like, kind of surging. I felt that a couple times on like the city bikes from Easy Motion, like the Street, the Neo City, all that, Evo City. And it's less of a problem there because you're in the city, it's smooth. With a bike like this, you're gonna be off-road possibly, hitting bumps and stuff. So then that accidental torque sensor activation could probably happen a lot more frequently. And that's just something you wanna watch out for. It's not as precision based. I mean, you are getting a pretty good deal on this bike, but some of it's a little bit like questionable in terms of performance. Even the width of these handlebars, like see how narrow they are? Like a lot of like true hardcore off-road bikes, they have wider handlebars for better steering and stuff. So keep that in mind. At least, the cables and stuff are really well integrated through the frame. It looks beautiful. It's a good price. It doubles as a city commuter. There's a lot to love about this bike, but it's just not as hardcore. Okay, so I'm gonna hop on this thing and start off in throttle mode and just show you what that's like. There you go. Almost up to 20 miles per hour in a pretty brief period. Really loving those brakes, nice and soft. I'm gonna do the pedal assist thing now. Take it all the way up. You can really see how it sort of keeps pushing you, keeps delivering power even when you aren't pedaling anymore. And that's where those motor inhibitors really come in handy. There's definitely times on the trail where you want it to stop, like immediately, and you don't want to be fighting your motor in one of those situations. So. That's the Easy Motion Evo 29er. It's a pretty sweet bike, you know? It's fun to ride, and I love the aesthetic. If you want to learn more about this bike for the specs or see other Easy Motion Evos and beyond, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And if you get this bike, you know, do a video response. Maybe I missed something. Feel free to chat, you know, in the forums, ask questions, help other people out. I am often limited in how much time I get to spend with these bikes, and I really don't get to take them off-road as much and truly like test the motor, you know, how durable they are. Easy Motion's been around for a while and they do a good job, but I always love to get feedback and, you know, just really paint a picture for what this is like. So take care, ride safe.